ambitious, shattered dreams. End of times ain't what it seems.
Hello, friends. It's Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's July 10th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Just me today, no guests. We have a lot of news to get to on day 132 of the Iran war. Looks like things are going to pick up hot and heavy as the markets have closed for the weekend. We may see here now some heavy U.S. bombing of Iran over the weekend. We're going to cover all the ins and outs of the Iran war. Tragically enough, on day 132. Is Mitch McConnell dead or alive? We're going to take a look at that. A bunch of government tyranny news with surveillance state, the flock cameras. We're going to take a look at that. UN had a big meeting here. Apologies for missing it. It was a few days ago, but we'll follow up today on this Friday. UN had a big AI governance meeting, and looking at the UN, it also released the 2026 report on goals for sustainable development that I haven't seen anybody out there really reporting on. So we're going to report on it here at Weaponized News. When was this report was released by the United Nations, I believe earlier this week. So we're going to take a look at that. Where are we at on the 17 goals for sustainable development, part of UN Agenda 2030, according to the big UN report they just put out. What else do we got? More Epstein news. Little bit of Epstein news. It goes on. We had the fourth tranche of UFO files released today by the Department of War. We'll take a look at that. Seems like, MTG said nobody cares. Does anybody care? We'll take a look at that. We got a bunch of economic news. Kind of went light, a little light. We have some on the geopolitical news. We have a little bit of that today. Lebanon and Gaza, the massacres, demolitions, genocide, ethnic cleansing continues there as U.S. troops have been deployed to Lebanon. So to help disarm Hezbollah, we're going to see how all of this develops as well. Wow, I start just going through the hooks, and I look back up. A bunch of people joined us. Welcome to this Friday edition of Weaponized News. All right, let me pick up the pace. I'll try to go as fast as I can to cover all this information for everybody and not leave out important details. Let's get to this day in history, and then we'll get to all of this news for you. Again, welcome to everybody coming online right now. On this day of July 10th, we go back to the year 1040. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, not mockery by the IRS naming your standard individual income tax form for individual filers the 1040, right? Anyhow, I'm sure it's just a coincidence and not mockery. And again, why do we pay taxes? It's to make us poorer. It's not to support unlimited government borrowing. We're $39+ trillion in debt. What is it? It's we have reports in the economic section. The latest calculation, $24 billion a week, I believe we're paying on the interest on the debt alone. We'll get into the details in the economic section. Anyhow, it just pisses me off to no end because I kind of studied this stuff a little bit. I do have a degree in economics and accounting, and this stuff pisses me off, man. Anyhow, let me focus and get back into on this day in history. In the year 1040, why I bring all this up, Lady Godiva rides naked on horseback through Coventry, according to legend, to persuade her husband, the Earl of Mercia, to lower taxes. I'm not making this up, right? So, literal Earl of Mercia, and here's a painting depicting the event right there in the year 1040. We need that kind of spirit back here now. And I'm not trying to be like some kind of weirdo pervert to see naked women. Maybe that's what it takes to get the attention. I don't know. But we need this type of spirit, willing to strip naked, ride on a horse, create a big old scene to raise awareness about the theft that is taxation on this day, 1040. Then we fast way forward in history to 1832. On this day in 1832, doing his damnedest, then President Andrew Jackson vetoes legislation to recharter the second bank of the United States. We need that Andrew Jackson spirit in the next president. Hell, put it in Trump's heart now and go arrest all the bankers. We know that's not going to happen, but man, how far we've fallen from Andrew Jackson on this day, 1832. On this day, 1850, Millard Fillmore is sworn in as the United States president, succeeding Zachary Taylor. On this day in 1913, and we know many tyrannical events happened in 1913, but on this day, Romania declares war on Bulgaria in 1913. Also in 1913, the world's official highest recorded temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit or 56.7 Celsius occurs in Death Valley, California. On this day, 1917, Emma Goldman is imprisoned after being convicted of conspiring to obstruct the U.S. military draft during World War I through her anti-war activism and anarchist politics. On this day, 1933, we saw the first police radio system operated in Eastchester Township, New York. On this day, 1938, we saw Howard Hughes flies around the world in 91 hours. Quite an accomplishment in 1938. On this day in 1942, Himmler orders sterilization of all aardvark women. Now we just have it as standard public health policy, and everybody needs to look up State Department Memorandum 200. As far as I can tell, it's still U.S. foreign policy issued by Kissinger to go ahead and sterilize the third world. On this day, 1979, on this day, I skipped ahead a little bit there. Excuse me, we skipped ahead a little bit. On this day, 1943, the United States, UK, and Canada forces invade Sicily in World War II, part of Operation Husky. On this day in 1973, John Paul Getty III, grandson of oil tycoon J. Paul Getty, is kidnapped in Rome by Italian gangsters demanding a ransom. And that's a very bizarre story there. Side note to that, now governor, perennial Democrat presidential candidate Gavin Newsom here in the state of California is the unofficial stepson of the Gettys. Everybody should go take a look at that if you're not familiar with that history. The The big money behind Gavin Newsom's political career comes from the Getty fortune. On this day in 1979, again, taxation theft, rock and roll star Chuck Berry begins a 4-year prison sentence on a $200,000 tax evasion conviction. On this day, 1981, CERN achieves first proton anti-proton beam collision, 570 GeV, it's called, in 1981 on this day. Allegedly, that's what they claim. On this day, 1985, we saw the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior. French foreign intelligence agents blow up the Greenpeace flagship Rainbow Warrior in New Zealand to prevent it from interfering with French nuclear tests in the South Pacific. Here's a photograph of the Rainbow Warrior there, sunk by French intelligence because they were protesting nuke testing on this day in 1985. And on this day in 2015, we saw the Confederate flag, the stars and bars, taken down for the last time from South Carolina Capitol. You could thank neocon, Zionist criminal traitor Nikki Haley for that, great conservative that she lies to be, for removing the Confederate flag from the South Carolina Capitol grounds, helping to further destroy American history. We have a few entries here on this day in our civil liberties, or just one, really, I guess. I'll skip a couple. We'll just cover this one. On this day in our civil liberties history of July 10th, we go back to the year 2015. American Psychological Association aided CIA military torture program. Call me skeptical of therapy. Anyhow, a blistering internal report by the American Psychological Association, APA, made public on this day, revealed that top leaders of the APA had assisted torture programs operated by the CIA and the Pentagon in the war on terror. The report concluded that the association's ethics office, quote, prioritized the protection of psychologists, even those who might have engaged in unethical behavior, above the protection of the public. Both the CIA and the military conducted what were referred to as harsh interrogations, or what critics labeled as torture, on terrorist suspects who were captured following the terrorist attacks on the United States on September 11, 2001. We're lied to about 9/11. Allegations of torture became one of the major controversies over the policies of President George W. Bush's conduct of the war on terror. And no one gets in trouble. They're like, having ethics? That's a conspiracy theory. Are you crazy? Ethics? Continuing here, see, for example, the notorious, quote, torture memo of August 1st, 2002, which justifies interrogation tactics that many people around the world regard as torture, because it is torture. Senate Intelligence Committee report on CIA torture program, December 9th, 2014. The report was commissioned by the APA and directed by Chicago lawyer Stanley Hoffman as an independent review of the conduct of past leaders of the association. It concluded that the collaboration between APA leaders and both the CIA and the military was much more extensive than was previously known. Incredibly, some members of the CIA's own Office of Medical Services complained about interrogation techniques the CIA was using. The Hoffman report concluded that top APA officials colluded with the military to ensure that the APA's policy of interrogation techniques did not conflict with the CIA and the military were doing, did not conflict with what they were doing. The APA subsequently repudiated its own 2005 ethics guidelines that had allowed psychologists to participate in harsh interrogations. What do you even say, man? I mean, MK Ultra is alive, and well, you better believe it. But it probably doesn't even have a name now. There's like that thing. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't even name it. No documentation whatsoever to even shred. But you better believe MK Ultra is alive and well. They finally laid old Khomeini to rest. Supreme Leader Ali Khomeini and his family members to rest. Here's some footage released by Iran earlier today. And they're pretty pissed. It's being widely reported, the most attended funeral in history. Where are we at on day 132 of the Iran war? Well, according to Trump, this is where we're at. The Islamic Republic of Iran has asked us to continue talks. We have agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms that the ceasefire is over. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, there's going to be no talks then. Were there ever talks? Trump declares ceasefire over while claiming to maintain diplomatic dialogue with Iran. There's no dialogue. Trump today, we just went over, announced the U.S. has agreed to continue formal talks with Iranian officials, even as he reiterated that the ceasefire between the two nations is no longer in effect, writing the post on his True social media platform. There is no evidence that Iran has asked for talks to resume after the most recent U.S. attacks. This declaration follows a week of intensified regional instability marked by an exchange of fire between the United States and Iranian forces. The collapse of the ceasefire, which was initially formalized in a memorandum of understanding on June 17th, stems from a series of maritime incidents in the Strait of Hormuz. Following attacks on three commercial vessels who ignored Iranian warnings on July 6th and 7th, the U.S. military launched widespread strikes against Iranian targets, leading the Treasury Department to revoke a temporary sanctions waiver that had allowed Tehran to export oil. These events effectively halted the phased de-escalation process that was intended to transition the region toward a lasting stability agreement. That was a post by the Cradle. Here's a little mashup video. The Resonance posted on the X. I don't know who made it originally. Anyhow, here's Trump saying a mashup of him saying Iran's begging for a deal.
They want to make a deal. They want to make a deal so badly. They want to make a deal so badly. I do see a deal. It's looking very good that we're going to make a deal. This process should go very quickly. We're going to end that war very quickly. in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal. And they want to make the deal a lot more than I do. We have our deal done with Iran, and it should be successful. We're making an amazing deal with Iran. They want to make a deal with us very badly. They're dying to make a deal. They're giving us a lot. They want to make a deal so badly. They want to make a deal. And they want to make a deal so badly. They want to make a deal.
There's no deal, bro. That's all bullshit. That's Trump manipulating the market, war profiteering. Reports claiming a new round of Iran-U.S. talks will take place next week are not entirely unfounded. A knowledgeable source close to Iranian negotiators told a Fars news reporter the denial follows recent reports circulating alleging that the two nations were scheduled to resume discussions. And we're going to back to a bunch of conflicting reports all over the place. It's hard to suss all this out because both sides and everybody in between is lying. Here's what Morandi said. He's like, he's an Iranian professor dude, all around the media, and he's like an informal mediator, I guess you could call him. He says, ignore Trump and Axios. There will be no talks until the Trump regime follows through on its commitments. He's talking about what was agreed to in the MOU. Well, that's just a conspiracy theory, right? Aardvark Lamb pressuring Washington for green light to attack Iran, claims Tehran plotting Trump assassination. And it's like very valuable intelligence, right? They did giant rallies saying kill Trump and offering what a $100 million reward for Trump's head. Tel Aviv is pressing Washington for a green light to resume strikes on Iran. So we may see it. It may be happening right now, actually, and they're just not announcing it. Feels like we're going to see. Well, here you go. So some super secret spy intel says that they're looking to whack Trump, and would on this whole Masonic theater known as American politics world stage. Would they, the powers that be, would they fake Trump assassination? Really assassinate him? Something in between to justify to the American people an excuse for full-on invasion of Iran? I would not put anything past these psychopaths at this point as they're floating this most recent narrative. Oh my gosh. Iran wants to whack Trump. I don't know why. It's a big mystery. We whacked like, they just got done their funeral mourning period for their supreme leader. We whacked like over 50 of their top military men. I don't know why they would be upset with Trump. It's just a giant mystery. So they're like, yeah, we got this intelligence. Iran's out to get you, Trump. It's like, bro, it's no mystery. They're advertising it widely. This was actually posted 2 days ago. It's making the rounds now as people are realizing, oh, things are escalating back up to we're in war, flat out full-on war with Iran. This is posted 2 days ago by U.S. Central Command. They say more than 20 U.S. Navy warships are patrolling waters across the Middle East as CENTCOM forces continue promoting regional security and stability. And again, as it's mandated in our Constitution, America's the police of the Strait of Hormuz. Like, none of this, it's insane. But we got to prop up the hegemony one way or another, and this is how we're doing it now. This is how we're doing it. This is a more recent post from U.S. Central Command. U.S. sailors conducting nighttime flight operations there. So it feels like we're getting ready for some heavy bombing campaigns there in Iran. And it's being reported we're repositioning military assets all over the region, expecting retaliation from Iran on our bases that they built their country around. Iran's foreign minister spokesman Baghdadi said Iran will not allow inspections of facilities damaged by the United States attacks, and UN Security Council Resolution 2231 has effectively lost its legal validity. Does international law have any legal validity? Does the UN, what they say? Nobody seems to care. America certainly doesn't care about international law. We'll literally laugh in your face and shoot you in the face in America over international law. Trump told the New York Post he has left instructions that if Iran succeeds in assassinating him, the United States should, quote, literally bomb them at levels that they've never seen before. He added that he's been number one on Iran's kill list for a long time, saying, I hope you'll miss me. Again, would they really whack Trump? Would they fake it? Could be all anything in between. They're floating that narrative out there right now. Again, as an excuse to try to rally the country. Oh my gosh, they assassinated our president. We have to go invade Iran. They're trying to sow the seeds of that narrative now. Be aware. And then we have Fat Bob was requesting a Lego video, so I found one. Here's a Lego mockumentary video of Trump at NATO and his referring to Japan as the Islamic Republic. Let's watch this short Lego clip mocking Trump at NATO.
He stood on the world stage, microphone in hand, and said, Islamic Republic of Japan. Ankara summit, NATO crowd. Trump spoke up, said it loud. Japan is Islamic. Wait, what? Somebody tell him where he's at. Zelensky stared, jaw on the floor. Putin, he called him Putin, not Zelensky no more. The man is lost, the man is gone. Somebody get his teleprompter on. Islamic Republic of Japan. Somebody tell this man the plan. Islamic Republic of Japan. He's confusing Tehran with Tokyo, man. Islamic Republic of Japan. The whole world laughing. Shit if you can. He wanted Greenland, he wanted Spain. Now Japan's Islamic in his brain. 85 strikes, he dropped the bomb. I can't tell I ran from a samurai dawn. Confuse the flags, confuse the names. This is how the end of empires looks, it's a game. Zelensky to Putin, I ran to Japan. The leader of the free world needs a new plan. Islamic Republic of Japan. Somebody tell this man the plan. Islamic Republic of Japan. He's confusing Tehran with Tokyo, man. Islamic Republic of Japan. The whole world laughing. Cat shit if you can. The Catholic Republic of Iran. Stay tuned.
See, there's a chance the Catholic Republic of Iran may be on the horizon. We may just convert these damn radical jihadists yet. No? No, probably not. Okay. And we covered yesterday just the many just misstatements to be generous or just flat out confusion, lies, disinformation a whole lot of it coming out of Trump's mouth at the NATO Arms Bazaar. Okay, moving forward now, we'll come back to more Iran coverage in the geopolitical section in the second half of the show. Now on to back here domestically in America. Flock is now gone super mega viral because this may be the one issue that can unite the left and right here in America. Is people are finally getting it that you don't want a camera up your rear end for your own safety. These Flock cameras, they want basically a camera up everybody's rear end for our own safety. Here is a CEO of Flock saying that those against his violation of our natural rights, our Fourth Amendment, are terrorists. I would argue that this guy is actually the terrorist. And again, the government can't and won't keep you safe.
You've got organizations like the ACLU and the EFF who take an above-the-board approach to fight for their point of view. And thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic, capitalistic country where we can fight in court. And I have a lot of respect for those groups because they have reasonable debates and we follow the law. And then unfortunately, there's terroristic organizations like DFLOG, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that, I think, is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety. So for those groups, I think it's just disappointing that they haven't chosen a more constructive mannerism to try to get what they want, which they have a right to have, but that's why we have a democratically elected process, right? Like we're not forcing Flock on anyone. Elected officials know that as a community, we want to be safe.
What a joke. All these elected officials are corrupt as the day is long. What a effing joke. Case in point, Ice Barbie, former director of Department of Homeland Security, is divorcing her weirdo cross-dressing husband after 34 years. Brian Nome was exposed for having sent photos of himself dressed as a woman to bimbo fetish models. They're now getting divorced after 34 years of marriage. Here's remember this? Oh yeah, trust your officials there. They're a bunch of freaks. Is Mitch McConnell, trust dead Mitch McConnell, trust their lying. They just lie about everything. Is Mitch McConnell even alive or dead? Does it even matter? They'll still vote for more war in his name. Allegedly representing the people of Kentucky as their federal senator. We don't know if dude's even dead or alive. New video and a neighbor's account show Mitch McConnell being taken from his home on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance on June 14th after emergency responders were called for an unconscious person. But the lying criminal government won't tell us the truth about what is even happening. It's elder abuse. It's abuse of the public. It's straight up corruption. And so it's truly disgusting. But yeah, trust Flock and your elected officials. It's just like, wow, man. Trust these lying criminals with nothing.
Not riding with them.
So if the system was legitimate, they'd say, yo, Mitch McConnell had whatever, a medical emergency. He's simply not fit for duty anymore. And we need to, take the proper steps to ensure his constituents are properly represented. They don't do any of that. They just lie. They just lie to us now. More on this 2027 NDAA. Or no, this is the FISA 207. Let's watch this report from Mint Press. Trump just forwarded the U.S. surveillance state despite pledges for reforms. Let's watch this report from Mint Press about the illegal warrantless spying of FISA 702.
FISA Section 702, a major U.S. spying tool, lapsed last month. Most Democrats voted no over Trump's pick to run national intelligence Bill Pulte. Then Trump said he won't sign any renewal unless Congress also passes his unrelated voting bill, the Save America Act. This was supposed to be the moment for real privacy protections. Instead, it lapsed with no reforms, and the surveillance continues. Section 702 lets U.S. intelligence collect foreigners' communications without a warrant. Americans talk to people overseas too, so all messages get swept up. They call it incidental collection. Once that data exists, the FBI, CIA, NSA, and the National Counterterrorism Center search it for Americans specifically. No warrant, a backdoor search, basically. FISA was passed in 1978, right after the Church Committee found out the FBI had been illegally surveilling and disrupting civil rights leaders, anti-war organizers, and the Black Panther Party. The program was called COINTELPRO. FISA was supposed to be the guardrail, the law that said if you want to spy on an American, you need a judge to sign off first. Then the Obama admin expanded Section 702 significantly. PRISM, the program Snowden exposed in 2013, ran on this exact authority, and it pulled phone records, emails, browsing activity, all of it. Congress kept reauthorizing it after that. January 2025, a federal court found the FBI's warrantless backdoor searches violate the Fourth Amendment outright. That ruling still stands. There is a classified FISA court opinion from March 2026 describing serious abuses. The admin won't release it, even to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Meanwhile, the FBI's internal auditing office for Section 702 got dismantled. And there's a workaround for whatever the government cannot legally force a company to hand over. Federal agencies just buy it from a data broker. No court order needed. This isn't just a surveillance program, it's an architecture. Section 702 is the federal layer, data broker loophole is the commercial layer, Palantir is the AI processing layer, Canary Mission and Israeli doxing org is the targeting layer. The government used Canary Mission's database of 5,000 student profiles to build an ICE deportation list of 100 students. So ask yourself why the orgs building deportation lists out of doxing databases are the same ones lobbying hardest against a warrant requirement. Why these orgs end up on the side of police state, the censorship, and the spying. Section 702 will come back up. When it does, no reauthorization without a warrant requirement, no data broker loophole, no closed-door deals.
It's all quite so absurd, violation of our natural rights, our Fourth Amendment, and they come up with all of this legalese, semantical games. They're a pack of criminals. And the flock camera twos, I want to mention reports after reports. I don't even have them up, but I read through them as I read through the news of local police abusing the data collected on these flock systems. They're the terrorists. They're the criminals. They're the pieces of garbage selling us safety. It's all complete and utter BS for a police state. On to the United Nations. I guess old Ben Gvir didn't come over here. I didn't see any reports of it. He was scheduled to come to the UN police conference in New York. That happened last 2 days here now. UN cops, how exciting. No child should be a guinea pig for unregulated AI, the United Nations says. It's always about the children's safety. It's about taking away more of our liberties and freedom is what it's really about. They don't give a damn about children being guinea pigs, i.e. Operation Warp Speed, i.e. the rest of all of it. I mean, it's just so tiring. But we continue here now. Here's a report from UN had an AI conference on AI governance in Geneva this week. Let's watch this report. We have a couple reports from this latest AI governance UN meeting.
The last few years have seen rapid progress in the acceleration of artificial intelligence. It's now so much part of our daily lives, in healthcare, in agriculture, in the daily tasks that we do at work. Over 1 billion people use AI every year. But this progress has been uneven, and it carries risks. The future of AI needs to be grounded in human rights and sustainability. And that's where the UN plays a vital role. We as the UK are here in Geneva, where the United Nations has brought together some of the world's leading scientists to build a shared evidence base so that governments navigating these increasingly urgent and difficult decisions can approach it from the same starting point, discuss what works and what we need to do, and come together in that spirit of international cooperation, a spirit where the UK is really well placed to lead.
It's all for your own safety. Total technocracy tyranny. This one's creepy. This is out of that UN summit. A Swiss humanoid robot displaying the faces of world leaders debuted at AI for Good Global Summit. AI for Good, they tell us. Look at this creepy robot.
We believe that communication happens largely.
So should they just roll this out, this robot? Just roll this out with Mitch McConnell's face and vote for more war? That's probably what they should do.
We believe that communication happens largely through nonverbal cues, and that this is crucial when interacting with a robot. In the future, we think it will be important to be able to communicate with a robot and for humans to receive information from its expressions, like seeing a smile to know if it's happy or not. So, if I make him do something silly right now, I don't think people will mistake him for the real Donald Trump. I don't believe we're falling into the uncanny valley trap.
People will mistake him for the real Donald Trump.
Because our goal isn't to perfectly replicate a specific person. We aren't using a silicone mask. It's clearly a robot. It's just a face that displays the likeness of another person.
Well, there you go. That's how Mitch McConnell will be voting in the Senate in the near future. Activists disrupt Amazon CTO presentation at UN AI Summit. Pro-Palestinian activists interrupted a presentation by Amazon Vice President and Chief Technology Officer Werner Vogels. Let's watch this video. At the UN AI Governance Summit. AI for Good, sure.
Drop Project Nimbus! Drop Project Nimbus! Stop! You are making Project Nimbus a project of billions of dollars that Amazon is investing so that Israel has free access to your servers. You are investing billions in that. Your technology, Project Nimbus, develops Lavender, develops the software Where's Daddy that actively tracks using AI people in Palestine, and when they come back, they kill them together with their families. And you know this, Werner Vogels, and you're making millions out of this. You're sitting here as if you're trying to do good, as if you're trying to be for the good of AI. What do you have to say for yourself? How do you sleep at night? Maybe that's why you're looking so panicked. Maybe that's why you cannot even stand on this stage anymore and look at these people. Because you know exactly what your technology is being used for. They know exactly where their profits are coming from. And they continue anyways. You should be stopping them. You should be stopping those criminals right here. Why you facilitate genocide? Why you're continuing to be complicit in the deaths of innocent people?
The order followers are always confused about who the real criminals are. That's what we're coming to find here now. A little bit more from the UN. They say global military spending surged to a record high $2.887 trillion last year in 2025. That's 776 times more than the UN's regular budget. They keep crying they're out of money. Well, you're worthless anyway with the whole Security Council structure. Anytime it comes up, let's hold these war criminals accountable for genocide at the UN, right? Every time it comes up, United States on the UN Security Council just vetoes it. So what good are they really? Well, we got a weird mismatch going on here, but they're still trying to implement UN Agenda 2030 goals for sustainable development. They just put out the report 3 days ago on July 7th. That is out of the United Nations. There it is. The Sustainable Development Goals Report 2026. And then here is the actual report from the United Nations. The Sustainable Development Goals Report 2026. I'll post the report on Weaponized News Substack, or you could go try to find it on the internet yourself. But I did the research finding this report for you. And there it is. Where are we at, according to the United Nations, on our way to fulfilling the goals for sustainable development, UN Agenda 2030? Well, how big was that report? 41-page report. Obviously, we're not going to read through the whole thing here. I used AI for the good here and created a little summary of it. And I'll read that to you here now. Again, I'll post the full report at Weaponized News Substack channel for those interested in it. Kind of a big deal. And nobody cares. You will care when they implement all this tyranny on us. And by that time, it'll be too late. The UN's official 2026 SDG report provides a candid, data-driven assessment of progress toward 2030 agenda. With less than 5 years remaining, it highlights meaningful gains achieved since 2015 through policy investment, innovation, and cooperation, such as expanded access to water, sanitation, electricity, digital connectivity, health services, and social protection for hundreds of millions to billions of people. Data infrastructure has also improved dramatically, enabling better tracking and targeting. However, overall progress is uneven and insufficient. Amid major headwinds, escalating conflicts, climate change — who cares? We got data centers to build. Who cares? Climate change is last freaking week. Slowing economic growth, rising debt, a record 23% drop in official development assistance, and other shocks of 139 assemblage targets. With trend data, only 36% are on track or making moderate progress. 49% are advancing too slowly, and 15% have regressed below 2015 baselines. Key persistent challenges include extreme poverty. 1 in 10 people are in extreme poverty. They'd like to make it 10 of 10 if they can have their way. Food insecurity. 2.3 billion people affected, and now tens of millions more are going to be affected because, well, they're affected right now, and it's going to get worse because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Just adding a little bit in here for context. 2.3 billion affected, stunting in children, high maternal mortality rates, increasing gender inequality gaps, and worsening climate disaster impacts. The report stresses closing a $4 trillion annual financing gap in developing countries, reforming the international financial architecture, accelerating renewable energy transitions, advancing gender equality, harnessing AI responsibility for data and statistics, strengthening multilateralism, and prioritizing peace. It calls for a decisive final push to keep the 2030 agenda within reach, positioning the SDGs as the blueprint for shared prosperity, sustainability, and peace. Call me skeptical, but I don't believe them. The report includes detailed goal-by-goal analysis, success stories, statistical annexes, and discussions on SDG monitoring in the AI era. So they're trying to warp speed this tyranny with AI. And so hopefully the failures of AI can work to humanity's advantage here now with the massive oversell of it as we've seen develop here now. Again, I'll post the full report, Weaponized News Substack, for those interested in it. Where are we at here in July of 2026 on our path toward fulfilling UN Agenda 2030? Goals for Sustainable Development. All right. On to 8 missing children rescued during the World Cup. Again, all of these big sporting events, they use them as an excuse to go ahead and carry out their favorite elite pastime, eating babies. Here's a report from the Department of Homeland Security where they claim they rescued 8 missing children.
It's been nonstop.
We have people working 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours per day, but we get the mission done.
For agents at the Homeland Security investigations during the World Cup in Kansas City.
I think the hardest part was just getting to this point. The planning, again, over time, month after month, week after week.
Since the tournament began, agents have dialed in on human trafficking operations, arresting 14 people, identifying 9 victims of human trafficking, and recovering 8 missing children.
Unfortunately, most of these children are runaways, and they are reported missing by their families or their care providers. However, they end up on the streets. They end up with these traffickers who put them available for these human trafficking, events.
The kids found were mostly teens and several from the KC Metro.
We find them, every day. So the best thing that we can do is have people keep an eye on your kids.
HSI also seized a little more than $435,000 worth of counterfeit World Cup items, like jerseys, t-shirts, and flags.
Ultimately, they'll either be destroyed, or if they're determined to be safe, they're typically exported to third world countries where their clothing is in short supply.
Even with the games ending, working with other partners to keep KC safe will continue.
We're almost there. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but we have a few more days till we get to the end of the road here with the World Cup.
Jeez. The game's rigged. They're harvesting energy off the crowds, the reaction. In the background, they're using it to traffic children, abolish the World Cup. It's a curse on humanity. Here's James Wilkinshaw. He's a Democrat on the House Oversight Committee on the Epstein saga that is never ending.
The Justice Department should today reopen the Epstein investigation based on what our committee's investigation has revealed. We know the FBI never interviewed key figures, the lawyer, the accountant, some of the assistants, those closest to Epstein, never interviewed by the FBI. We know that new allegations have come to light as a result of our investigation. Sarah Kellen, who came in and made new allegations that need to be fully investigated. The DOJ should reopen that, interview those who need to be interviewed, prosecute those who need to be prosecuted. The Justice Department should
They never even interviewed anybody. There was no wrongdoing, you see, because they never even interviewed anybody to collect the evidence to those closest to Epstein. Case closed. Reported on this yesterday, last couple of days. It feels pretty damn significant just to show you how corrupt the feds are. New Mexico says U.S. Justice Department hindering probe into Epstein Ranch there in New Mexico, Zorro Ranch. And so the New Mexico's Attorney General there has said that the Justice Department is not working with them and actively blocking their investigation, i.e. the biggest cover-up in American history, i.e. Todd Blanche, the acting director, Trump's former personal attorney, the acting director of the Department of Justice, is continuing to break the law by not complying with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And now, anytime an investigation at the state level here in New Mexico, they're actively blocking that investigation as well. You will get no justice in regards to Epstein out of Trump's DOJ. We're going to get continued war with Iran, as it appears a major reason for attacking Iran in the first place was to get you to look that way about all the Epstein file revelations and all of Trump administration all up in the Epstein files. We covered the list. Over a dozen high-level Trump executive administration officials are in the Epstein files. It's just beyond the pale here now as the Department of Justice continues the cover up. But little Marco's going after, and all this stuff's wrong and bad too, but it's always deflection. It's distraction. Look that way. Look that way. Bro, you guys are all up in the Epstein files. Little Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, says he has reversed Minnesota Governor Walz's pardon of an illegal alien who sexually abused a 10-year-old girl. Let's watch little Marco Rubio make this announcement. I don't know how legally it all works, honestly, here. I don't know how the feds can override a governor's pardon, but apparently, I guess, come back and charge him federally. Let's see what little Marco, Secretary of State, has to say about this.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian national Tu Le Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat.
Well, there you go. Rubio answered my question. That was the workaround. You revoke his legal status here and deport him. But again, it's like, yeah, that's good. You got rid of that scumbag if all that stuff's true, what they're saying against him. But you got Epstein co-conspirators in your own administration, little Marco. Look at the orange man first and work your way down from there. So call me skeptical in my criticism of how genuine little Marco Rubio is about his caring to enforce justice on those abusing children. All right, let's take our live commercial break. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. We went through a whole hour of hardcore news there. I tried to keep the ranting and raving to a minimum. I think we covered quite a bit. We have a bunch more to cover in the second half here of Weaponized News. Give me that like, share, and subscribe. Push that notification button. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. We have a holograph sticker there. We got the white background sticker and the clear sticker. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Go take a look. We got t-shirts, baseball caps, coffee mugs, bunch of gear over there, shot glasses, as some in the audience claim this show may induce heavy bouts of drinking. All of that gear at weaponizednews.com/shop. If you don't want to patron the store and you feel like just giving us a donation, we take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. We give away everything free, nothing behind a paywall. Show your support for independent reporting and analysis. Go out there and look on the internet. The large majority of, quote, independent media are ex-government, feds, and the rest of them, very suspect. It's hard to find honest, independent media in this country. Everybody's playing an angle. They got sponsors to answer to. They got government handlers to answer to. They got whatever health potions or whatever trying to sell you. You know what I mean? We're honest here to the core at Weaponized News, beholden to the audience. No sponsors. I'm my own sponsor here, weaponizednews.com/shop. We're looking for honesty and accuracy in reporting to inform us about important events in the world and how to go about navigating this. Feels like we're heading right into World War III as we continue to cover all of the different conflicts and this continuing escalation in Iran. Anyhow, become a paid subscriber of Weaponized News Substack. We're streaming there live. You'll get the full show, a summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Become a paid subscriber. Again, everything's free there. It's to show your support for our efforts here. weaponizednews.com/shop, Weaponized News Substack. All the links are in the description below this video. All right. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, June 10th, 2026 edition of Weaponized News. Welcome back to the second half of the show. Now we're going to get into the UFO disclosure. Nobody seems to care a whole lot. NASA is looking for 4 volunteers to spend 1 year in a simulated Moon-Mars mission starting no later than August 2027, so about a year from now, a little more than a year from now. Participants will live in isolated habitats, grow food, monitor their health, perform simulated spacewalks, and adapt to the 40-minute longer Martian day. The goal is to study the physical and psychological effects of long-duration space missions. That's a report out of Spiegel. I don't believe any of this, but I do believe they're going to fund it with a bunch of money and launder that money and then tell us a bunch of more lies about outer space. U.S. Department of War, war.gov/UFO. Department of War publishes 4th tranche of unidentified anomalous phenomenon files today. There it is. You can see there. And then we go there. Wow. So they've released this. I'm convinced of UFOs after seeing this, right? This file contains a U.S. Air Force Air Intelligence Division study analysis of flying object incident in the United States, dated April 28th, 1949. They're saying somebody saw this and they drew an artist's rendition of this alleged UFO. Very convincing indeed. A little bit more here. This one, a progress report for Project Sign, a 1948-1949 U.S. Air Force program to investigate the nature and origin of unidentified flying objects. They put out this image. What is that? A frisbee that the dog bit in half? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell there. This image, of course, has me convinced of aliens, right? Let's see. This one is very convincing. Very convincing there. This as well. Of course, that. Sure. They say they saw these out of this when they were in space. And so very convincing. This document is a transcript of the 1949 conference held in Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory, now Los Alamos National Lab in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So I'm ready to give up all religion over this picture right here. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, they put out some video. This one's making the rounds on the internet. And people are saying, if you look close, you could see the balloon. I don't know if we can see the string that this is hanging from. Who knows how they rigged this stuff up in a Hollywood basement, underground in a secret or under the ocean in a secret ocean base. Who knows? But there you go. Very convincing. From today's UFO files released. And then, as you can see, not very high quality image. People ran this through AI. I saw all different kind of renderings. Well, I'm convinced. Is that a flock camera or is that a UFO? Anyway, people ran this through different AIs to try to enhance the image. I saw a couple different ones came out with feathers on it, like it's a bird. Video shows a large, somewhat deformed 12 to 15 foot balloon which traveled with the wind. Oh man, here's more from the White House is posting this. You'd see the video. This is the United States Air Force submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon consisting of 8 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2019. See if this convinces you to lose your religion. Remember all the neckbeard rumble pastors that said we got secret briefings from U.S. intelligence and this is going to change our religion? What are these guys talking about? Just more psyops and BS for the sheep. Apparently so here now. Here's a little bit longer clip. UAP files release. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon consisting of 5-minute video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform just last year in 2025. Here's a short version from the White House posted earlier today. No audio on this. See that little orb looking thing? Who knows what the hell? I guess that's why it's an anomalous phenomenon. Yeah, very exciting there. What else did we have from today's release? Yeah, that same one. Nobody cares, MTG says. Marjorie Taylor Greene said the newly released UFO files do not lower people's health insurance premiums, does not stop Social Security and Medicare from going bankrupt in 2032, does not lower inflation or gas prices, does not help people afford to buy a home, or does not end the Iran war that Americans did not sign up for. Nobody cares. Well, we care here, MTG. We're trying to be convinced to lose our religion over this. So we do care here at Weaponized News. That was about the gist of what was released today. Very convincing indeed. China put out this. They're doing the whole Musk land your rocket back thing again, which is increasing efficiency, I must admit, if we're to believe any of this is even real. Here's China landing their rocket back at base. I don't know. I'm convinced they put in the crowd cheering. So allegedly reporting, according to China, China successfully landed a reusable rocket for the first time, marking a major milestone in its space program. And that's the one where we've seen allegedly Elon Musk and SpaceX do this many times. And then finally, speaking of Mr. Technocracy, Elon Musk has stated that SpaceX could eventually exceed the total value of Earth if it achieves its long-range objectives of multi-planetary expansion, i.e. giant scheme, fraud job there, trying to pump up his valuation any which way he can. On to the economic section of the show. CNN report, or no, was this CNN? I believe it was CNN. Reported this earlier today. U.S. Treasury has borrowed $155 billion every month this fiscal year and is now paying $24 billion a week in interest on national debt. None of this is sustainable. They're spending like drunken sailors. This is all set to crash at the time of the bankers choosing. We're not paying off this national debt. They don't even have a good excuse why we pay taxes, because they just print money at will. It's quite literally to make us poorer. Epoch Times CFO, Chief Financial Officer, pleads guilty in $67 million money laundering scheme, ZBS News reports. The former Chief Financial Officer of the Epoch Times newspaper, a conservative multimedia company, interrupted jury selection at his money laundering trial yesterday to plead guilty to a conspiracy charge in a $67 million fraud scheme. Win Dong Bill Gong, 63 years old, of New Jersey, entered a plea in Manhattan federal court admitting his participation in what prosecutors described as a scheme to launder fraudulently obtained unemployment benefits and other funds through the New York-based media company's bank account and related entities. They're not very good money launderers now, are they? The conspiracy charge, I know, they charged them with conspiracy. The conspiracy charge relating to illegal financial transactions carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison, but the deal with prosecutors spares him from the possibility that he would be convicted on other charges at trial and face the chance of more than a decade in prison. The judge did not immediately set a sentencing date. So we'll have to follow this story and see what he actually gets for this conspiracy guilty plea there. Trump will let bipartisan housing bill become law without signing it in a protest over GOP voter ID law. This is rather concerning. They're bringing in the tech bros. We're gonna get central bank digital currency. You understand? We're getting digital currency under a different name. New Fed task force members share Chairman Kevin Warsh's embrace of AI. By the way, Kevin Warsh and his Aardvark Congress father-in-law are both all up in the Epstein files. That should make you feel very confident about those setting monetary policy in this country as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. The AI task force includes venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, economist Charles Else Jones, and Xbox CEO Asha Sharma. All are bullish on the economic potential of AI, just like Warsh. Yeah, they're all giant fraud con men, so I'd be bullish as well if I was them, especially meeting up with the money printers, the Federal Reserve. I'd be extremely bullish. We're going to get to the point. Well, they're already quietly floating the idea that AI under national security is too big to fail, too big to jail. We continue to report they don't have a solid business model. They're not producing positive net income, i.e. revenue. So they're also hinting they're going to need a federal bailout at some point in the future. And so all of that as they're forming the Federal Reserve AI task force here now. And it's all the ducks are lining up here now for a giant federal government bailout of these corrupt bastard AI companies. So look for that in the not too distant future. U.S. Federal Reserve taps, we covered that. It's funny but tragic for those who lost their job. Federal Reserve AI Task Force tapped Xbox CEO Asha Sharma, who just laid off 3,200 employees, and they're going to help there on the job task force AI working group with the Federal Reserve. Circle Internet Group received approval to start a national digital currency trust bank to support its stablecoin business, widening its remit to include institutional custody services while consolidating oversight under a single federal trust charter. OpenAI, Google sell advanced AI models to blacklisted Chinese tech giants. Isn't this treason? Clash report. We're told it's national security. Give up all your rights for data surveillance centers, and they're backdooring it to China here now. They're backdooring it to China. OpenAI and Google have been supplying advanced AI models to Singapore-based units of blacklisted Chinese tech firms, exposing severe vulnerabilities in Washington's strategy to restrict Beijing's military-linked technological advancements. Yeah, they're all traitors here. They don't give a damn about America 250 and the flag and all. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn because we have a technocracy, one world government to build, you see, and national borders, they don't see them. Those are just for you and I, the peasant slave serfs, not for the masters of the universe, the visionaries of the future, big tech. The U.S. government has actively moved to control direct access to specific frontier models such as Anthropic's Mythos and Fable, as well as OpenAI's GPT 5.6. However, Washington has stopped short of a comprehensive ban on the use of cutting-edge software by Chinese headquartered organizations. They have to keep the idea of the threat out there because, oh my gosh, we can't let China beat us in the AI race war, Cold War we're in now with China, according to Trump administration. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that they can compete and probably even beat America, if there even is such a thing, because these are multinational corporations that don't see national borders, you see. But hey, we got to fuel that threat, the best threat out there money can buy. So as they take away our liberties and freedoms and violate our natural rights here in America, if our own government doesn't do it, China will do it. So we have to beat them to the punch. The same old BS excuse here now of national security, as they're literally selling out our national security out the back door. An app co-founded by Phoebe Gates, daughter of Bill Gates, is reportedly claiming commissions for sales it did not generate. Shocking, I know, more lying tech. FIA aims to help users find discounts across the web, but the app is now claiming sales it didn't actually drive. So literally lying to investors, lying to the bank, lying to creditors about sales they didn't even make. That's a report out of Bloomberg, because they're all a bunch of lying criminals, you see. Apple has filed a lawsuit against OpenAI alleging misappropriation of trade secrets. They're even stealing from each other. They're even stealing from each other here now in the den of thieves known as big tech. Milas has launched a multi-agent creative canvas allowing users to orchestrate multiple AI agents and generative models together in a single environment without learning complicated AI workflows or technical infrastructure. Let's watch this short video from these Melius.
The world's first creative canvas for agents. With just one prompt, you and your team can create videos, animations, statics, and much more. Let me show you how it works.
Let's say you're an e-commerce brand, and you need product photos, UGC videos, and hundreds of other assets every month. We'll start with product photography. Every week, our customers use Mel to generate entire product shoots, like this one, from just one prompt.
Every decision Mel makes is mapped out on a node-based canvas, making sure each rule we've set for our assets is followed, which eliminates AI slop completely. Melius allows you to orchestrate a swarm of agents on a single canvas that reads the intent behind each prompt and harnesses the best generative AI models like Seedance, Kling, VO, and many more. Now let's say we want to make minor edits to our outfit style and create variations directly in Slack. We'll modify the headline in step 3 to bolder copy, and step 6 to include a promo for our summer sale.
But there's an issue. In step 2, Melius hallucinated and used a font outside of your brand guidelines. Mel self-corrects and automatically changes the font. In just a few minutes, our product shoot is ready with characters and assets. And Mel is working on 3 other projects in the background with assets delivered straight to Slack and Claude.
Melius is the harness for your team to deploy agent swarms across your brand's entire creative stack. To celebrate this launch,
It's the latest, greatest, right? And they even admit their own AI software's hallucinating. But don't worry, it self-corrects. Sure. Here's a report out of More Perfect Union. Online banking isn't as safe as you think.
If you use any...
Oh, sorry about that. Here we go.
If you use any of these banking apps or these high-yield savings accounts, your funds are not as safe as you think, thanks to these guys. Let's say you have your emergency fund parked in a Wealthfront cash account. You probably chose it because it has a really high interest rate and it's FDIC insured. That means if your bank fails, the government will pay back your money up to $250K. So this should be zero risk, right? Wrong. I talked to a bunch of people who put their savings in FDIC insured accounts with a bank called Yada. 2 years ago, their funds were frozen and the FDIC never stepped in. Thousands of people just lost their entire savings. So here's the catch. FDIC insurance only kicks in when a bank goes under. Yada wasn't a bank. It's a financial technology company, or a fintech. That's right. Silicon Valley has entered the chat. Tech billionaires are funding fintechs like Yada that do banky stuff, but they don't have a bank charter. Same deal with Wealthfront or any of these companies. Now, the crazy thing is, we actually have a law on the books that says any company that wants to accept customer deposits has to get a bank charter first. It's called the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. But these apps are exploiting a loophole in it, following a trend created by the queen bee of shadow banking, Peter Thiel. Back in the 2000s, multiple states were investigating whether PayPal was operating an illegal bank because they were letting customers keep money in their PayPal accounts. Thiel's loophole? PayPal partnered with chartered banks, and they were the ones to hold the deposits, not PayPal. Thiel lobbied hard, and ultimately the FDIC agreed. PayPal is not a bank. Glass-Steagall didn't apply. So that savings you have in Wealthfront, that's actually held across their 32 partner banks. Wealthfront says this is a good thing because it means you get FDIC insurance times 32. That part is in big font at the top of the homepage. But you have to scroll down to the tiny font to see that you get zero FDIC insurance if Wealthfront fails. It's the same with all of these fintechs. But wait, it gets worse. You could also lose your money if one of the real banks fail. If the fintech isn't meeting a certain set of conditions, which as a consumer is impossible for you to verify. And honestly, you shouldn't have to. That's why we have the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or at least we used to before Elon Musk dismantled it, urged along by Mark Andreessen, whose VC firm has invested in over 100 fintechs, some of which were investigated by the CFPB.
We have this thing called Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB.
What does it do though?
Terrorize financial institutions, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
And okay, yes, big banks suck, and they obviously do need some healthy competition. But do you really think that these guys are gonna deliver the solution? The real solution? Enforce the Glass-Steagall Act. Lawmakers should require that any fintech that's accepting our money needs to get a bank charter, no exceptions. Or pretty soon, this will be the safest place to put our savings.
Already is. Sorry to report to you here now. Already is. More of this fraud, big tech, building out the technocracy here now. Anything and everything for it. Here's old Howard Lutnick selling how wonderful it is. How is Howard Lutnick not in prison? I mean, talk about non-enforcement of U.S. laws. He says we need to bring 40 to 50% of semiconductor manufacturing back home, touting the groundbreaking of the new giant Macron facility there in New York.
We're trying to bring 40 to 50% of manufacturing of semiconductors home to America so we can take care of ourselves. This is critical capability, which also brings with it, for Micron alone, 100,000 American jobs.
What a bunch of bullshit. 100,000. I'd watch anything around old Letnick. He'll steal it. So fair warning out there. Another clip here. They're pumping it with old Kelly Loeffler. She's now Secretary of Small Business Administration. She was a senator during the bad times and profiteered handsomely. But we'll forget about that for now to play her pumping up this new Macron microchip manufacturing center there in New York. Keep in mind, both these characters are insanely giant criminals who have stolen millions, possibly billions from U.S. taxpayers.
It's incredible to be out here with you, Secretary Lutnick, my dear friend for years. And now look at what's happening here. Already out of that $250 billion commitment that was just upsized, $675 million spent right here in New York State, thanks to President Trump's agenda to get America building again. And thanks to your leadership, we're ahead of schedule.
Think about how perfect this is between the Commerce Department and the Small Business Administration, because we built this giant mega fab. Right, $100 billion commitment, but of course, all that $100 billion is going to be invested in 1,000 small businesses who are going to be doing everything from electricians. Everything you can think of will be invested here, and so it's really a great partnership between the two of us and the people we support, bringing their huge 100,000 jobs across America.
And the products that they're going to produce are going to power a small business. Small businesses are relying on memory for everything now, and to reshore whole industries, we're going to need advanced digital tools that this facility is going to power. So thank you for your leadership.
They're price fixing right now in the duopoly that is the memory, computer memory market. Family, that's segue to this. Same thing, different industry, but same routine of duopolies, price fixing, highly illegal, yet the Department of Justice refuses any enforcement action against these criminals. Family that founded Egg Empire pocketed $320 million during the alleged price fixing scheme, according to the New York Compost. Of course they did. And again, they're doing the same thing in a different industry, compute memory industry. Macron leading the charge, price fixing. They're facing lawsuits right now, but don't you worry about them. They're paying off the proper politicians and those in the Trump administration, I'm sure, to look the other way. Lockheed Martin, which donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration and over $10 million to his ballroom project, is reportedly donating $5 million to build the White House helipad. According to Citizens for Ethics, big conspiracy theorists there. As we know, ethics is a conspiracy theory. So far, the company has received over $40 billion in new and expanded government contracts. So you can see the return on investment if you have a couple $1 million around to bribe the Trump administration and grease the wheels of corruption. The return on investment will be handsome. We'll play a little bit of this report here now. Trump's sons found a way to profit from nearly $2 billion in government contracts. One defense startup won $620 million in taxpayer money only 3 months after Donald Trump Jr.'s firm took a stake in it. Let's watch a little bit of this report. MAGA, Trump, America 250, USA, USA, we love our corruption.
5 days after Donald Trump won the presidential election in 2024,
these are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this.
His son, Don Jr., got a new job as well. as a partner at a little-known private investment fund called 1789 Capital. And since the election, the companies in that fund have won billions in federal government contracts. Leading up to Trump's second term, these are what Don Jr. and Eric's estimated net worths were, respectively. These numbers have changed drastically in the 2 years since, and I want to talk about it. Because we found that when you follow the money far enough, it stops going out and instead moves in a circle. By the end of this video, we're going to add it all up, and the number is going to shock you.
I'm not going to play that whole thing. I'll post the link at Weaponized News Substack. But yeah, it's all circle jerk here of fraud and corruption in big tech, in the military-industrial complex, and the Trump administration and his family. Trump has now admitted that, we'll play this shorter clip here. And we played I think they have the clip. We'll play it again.
Trump basically admitted his kids are doing insider trading. He said whatever they do financially or business-wise, they have inside information.
Every time my kids do, if they invest in a stock or go and do a bill, anything they do, they have inside information.
So, of course, in this case, his kids wouldn't handle his investment portfolio, right?
I've made a tremendous amount of money, more than I would have ever thought I would have made. And I let people invest it. I don't even know who they are.
But if he was really benefiting from some kind of insider information with these investments, he'd be outperforming people like Nancy Pelosi. And he's not. Oh wait, look at this. He outtraded Pelosi in 1 year compared to her 25. We dug into these numbers. Trump reports more than 20,000 individual stock trades in his 2025 financial disclosures alone. By comparison, Nancy Pelosi averages 40 to 60 per year. So here are Trump's most interesting or concerning trades. While waging war on Iran, he sold more than $200,000 worth of stock in ConocoPhillips at a near historic high on May 18th, after slowly buying the stock for the 2 months prior. Trump also sold up to $1 million in Exxon stock at a near high the same day he announced the 2-week ceasefire. That was on April 7th. Then 2 days later, another $250,000. Because it's easy to buy low and sell high when your announcements directly impact stock prices. But don't worry guys, he posted on Truth Social asking for gas prices to go down immediately. In April, he bought $5 million worth of Palantir shares the same day they were awarded a $94 million contract with the USDA. On May 11th, he bought $500,000 in Palantir stock, only to sell half of that just a week later when they announced a partnership with Dell and Nvidia. But profiting off of dead kids when it's war is one thing. He wouldn't do that on like your average Tuesday. Wartime is different, right? Well, Abbott Labs, the company that manufactures baby formula, was sued over negligence following infant deaths that may have been linked to their products. Abbott Labs not only donated $500,000 to Trump's inauguration, he invested $500K in the company 2 months before his DOJ dropped the investigation. He also bought stock in MP Materials Corp, a small mining company, before announcing the DoD would partner and take over exclusive mineral rights. Since then, the stock value has tripled. Trump also bought $250,000 worth of stock in Robinhood Markets. That was in March, then $150K more in May. By the end of 2025, he had $695,000 total, which is wild, because he just launched the Trump Accounts app with Robinhood on July 4th. And maybe the Robinhood thing is kind of poetic, because while Americans are struggling to afford gas, baby formula, healthcare, the president's decisions tend to make him richer while the poor get poorer.
What are you, a panicking? Are you some kind of call me? You're against Trump's corruption? Trump today rejected $227 million in aid requests from New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island for help recovering from a major storm in February. 2 days earlier, Trump approved federal emergency management agency disaster aid for 6 Republican-led states, while extolling the political virtues of GOP politicians and candidates in those states. So Biden did it. It was wrong then. Remember, I forget even, it was like North Carolina, Tennessee. Remember that, the giant flooding there? And it was widely reported under Biden, if you had a Trump sign in your yard, FEMA would not fund you, right? And so they politicized disaster relief funding, which should go to all legitimate recipients here in America. And so now both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, have politicized and weaponized disaster relief funding. It's bad and wrong when Biden do it. It's bad and wrong when Trump does it. I know that's hard for the politicized American mind to wrap its little 2 brain cells they got left around, but it's bad when both sides have weaponized disaster relief funding for those suffering from these tragedies. On to the price of a gallon of gasoline. It's steadily increasing here now, according to AAA on this Friday, July 10th, 2026. Steadily increasing. It's gone up a good 4 cents from yesterday. We're looking to maybe on Monday we'll come back after heavy bombing of Iran and we'll be past the $4 threshold. As you can see right there, we're at $3.89. Or we'll round it down to 88 cents. What the heck? $3.88 on average across America for the cost of a gallon of gasoline. Creeping up here now. And the old Brown University Watson School of International and Public Affairs Iran War Energy Cost Trackers back online. I think they're lagging behind here on their data, but I do like watching the numbers tick, so we'll throw it up there. According to them, total consumer cost burden since the beginning of the Iran war on February 28, 2026 is now $67.3 billion. I do believe it's a lot higher than that, but they have to get it back ticking again here now. And you see the total on average across American household cost burden spread between gasoline and diesels now $513.68. And I believe it's a lot higher than that. We'll give them a minute here for their data to catch up. The U.S. Treasury Department announced earlier today, following Iran's resumption of attacks on international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned an Iranian financial facilitator who has effectively institutionalized large-scale embezzlement with the Iranian regime's diverting publicly funded wealth offshore. OFAC today also targeted key Iranian exchange houses that move billions of dollars annually on behalf of sanctioned Iranian banks. We're bringing back the full force of the weaponized dollar upon the Iranians, only in the deals that we don't profit off of as well. Oh, I added that part. So where are we at in the Strait of Hormuz? About 20% of world trade in these vital inputs to agriculture, obviously the oil. They're having the silver lining to shutting down. It could slow the pace of them building out the technocracy, as we've learned here now, inputs into building out technocracy. At least 20% of them flow through the Strait of Hormuz, which is essentially closed here now. Iran faces IMO pushback over Strait of Hormuz authority. Earlier today, the governing council of the United Nations Shipping Agency agreed that countries should reject Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz and Tehran's decision to establish a body overseeing traffic through the strategic waterway. The London-based International Maritime Organization, IMO, the United Nations agency responsible for maritime safety, security, and pollution prevention, has 176 member states safeguarding key shipping routes was a major topic during this week's meeting of the IMO's 40-member governing council, where Gulf states, the United States, and Iran disagree over the future of the strait. According to the text of the non-binding decision, the IMO Council strongly condemned Iran's decision to establish an entity purporting to control traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. The council also urged member states not to recognize Iran's claim of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, its assertions over jurisdiction over the maritime zones of third states in and around the strait, which violated the sovereign rights, and exclusive jurisdiction of these states, and not acknowledge any Iranian measures intended at closing, obstructing, hampering, or otherwise interfering with international navigation and the right of transit through the strait. Strait of Hormuz essentially closed here now. So we've won the war multiple times, as claimed by Trump. We've put Iranian Navy at the bottom of the sea. Before February 28th, the Strait of Hormuz was wide open. International trade was flowing through there, and they still had old man Khomeini in charge. So Khomeini still in charge of Iran on day 132 of the war, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Hashtag winning, hashtag MAGA, hashtag I love fraud and corruption and war crimes. Greece implements temporary fuel price cuts as U.S.-driven regional aggression impacts economy. It's all by design here now. They've created a global energy crisis, i.e. global famine here now. And we're seeing the impacts out of Greece now in that report. Iran rushes oil shipments as Trump threatens Strait of Hormuz blockade again. So it's back to Iran's blocking it, U.S. is blocking it. It's all for our own safety and security and for world hunger, of course. Iran has dispatched 6 vessels carrying around 11 million barrels of crude oil as tensions with the United States threatening to disrupt shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The shipments include 5 super tankers. So before the shooting gets hot and heavy again, here Iran's trying to make the best of it. The escalation has affected energy markets, with oil prices raising nearly 9% this week to around $79 a barrel. The IRGC Navy warned that further U.S. intervention in the Strait of Hormuz would face a crushing response. I don't even know how that's possible. They don't even have a Navy, but their Navy's threatening a crushing response for more U.S. intervention in the Strait of Hormuz. Somebody should read the Constitution to Iran and let them know. It says in there, it's our duty to be the police of the Strait of Hormuz, right? Sure it is. That's certainly what Washington acts like. Leaked documents reportedly show Russia and China are cooperating much more closely militarily, i.e. the Greater Eurasian Partnership, as Simon has broke on this show, at least trying to give it some legs. And we reported over 2 years ago here now, the Greater Eurasian Partnership coming into view with Russia and China having more closely related military ties. They are discussing joint weapons projects, training Russian drone operators in China, sharing battlefield lessons from Ukraine, and developing ways to counter Starlink, including jamming, cyber attacks, or potential or potentially attacking the satellites, just shoot the damn things down, right? They are also working on an advanced air missile defense system aimed at U.S.-style hypersonic and ballistic missiles. Russia brings real combat experience from Ukraine. China brings electronics manufacturing and technology. That's a report out of Der Spiegel. So we do appreciate that. And at some point, I do see, as many other analysts have foreseen as well here now, Russia, China, straight up direct war here with America, right? That's coming in the future here now. That is coming. The dictator Ukraine Zelensky said this week our warriors achieved significant results in carrying out long-range strikes against Russian facilities that support this war. Ukrainian drones reached Siberia and struck the oil refinery in Omsk, nearly 2,500 kilometers from Ukraine. There is now no Russian oil refinery that Ukrainian weapons cannot reach. Russia's effing pissed, and we're going to see a massive retaliation now from these most recent Ukrainian attacks on Russian oil infrastructure, petroleum manufacturing facilities. We've seen a little bit, but I do believe we're going to see a major Russian escalation against Ukraine. And again, if they ever bring this Patriot missile manufacturing online there in Ukraine, gifted by America to Zelensky at NATO per Trump, Russia's already said they're going to take that as an act of war by America against Russia. So we won't have to use proxy Ukraine any longer. We'll be in a direct war with Russia. We're literally this freaking close. We're that paper's thin close to being in a direct war with Russia with no pretense and no other BS. Russia has stated as much here now. Send me, bro, some straight up propaganda. War's a racket. All wars are bankers' wars. Send me war propaganda from the Department of War, posted earlier today. I would strongly advise against, but here's the propaganda.
Throughout our storied history, when soldiers said, "Send me," well-equipped or poorly equipped, it didn't matter whether they were stepping into a clear mission or a vague one, whether there were clear skies or raining, was always the determined reply. Every one of them, just like you, were called to serve something greater than themselves. Send me.
That's right. Send me to go fight an illegal foreign war of aggression for banker profiteering motives. That's right. Send me. There's a couple posts, U.S. Central Command this week. A lot of their attention has been taken up with aid to Venezuela. Earthquake struck Venezuela. Coast Guard and other units say they're doing a bunch of drug busts still. They post the photos. Guess what? They're not whacking them. Shockingly enough, they're actually arresting them. But they posted this one. I didn't even put, they're like a go fast boat, right? That's these fancy, like $100,000, whatever they are, very expensive, fancy Miami Vice style cigar boats, cigarette boats, they call them, right? And it's like some little rinky dink fishing boat. They're like, look, we busted these guys. I don't have it prepared to show you, but it's like, well, that's what they're supposed to do, is bust the bad guy narco drug traffickers and not just whack them. So maybe they're doing a little bit better. I have my suspicions that PR department at the Pentagon told them, guys, it just doesn't look good to show you whacking these fishermen, killing the evil narco drug traffickers, it kind of doesn't jive with our humanitarian missions we keep promoting there in Venezuela. You know what I mean? So maybe back off on that a little bit. Kind of feels like that they finally got the clue that extrajudicial assassination is murder, and it's hard to buy your philanthropic heart for Venezuela in these earthquake relief missions when you're simultaneously posting you're whacking fishermen or alleged narco drug traffickers with no evidence because you destroyed it all, right? It's kind of hard to get those two narratives to jive. Maybe some genius there at the Pentagon finally figured this out. We'll have to wait and see. My stinking suspicion is as soon as the mission there in Venezuela is over, they'll be back to whacking and posting, whacking the narco drug traffickers and posting proudly about it. Again, it's extrajudicial assassination, straight up murder. Continuing here, the Trump administration is intensifying pressure on Cuba, targeting its overseas medical missions, a major source of revenue for Havana. The United States argues the program exploits Cuban doctors. See, we care about these exploited Cuban doctors through forced labor and is urging countries to end or reduce contracts, threatening visa restrictions for officials who continue participating. Several countries, including Jamaica, Guatemala, Bahamas, and Honduras, have scaled back or ended their agreements with Cuba, while others, such as St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, say they depend on Cuban doctors to keep their health care systems running. Cuba has about 24,000 medical workers abroad, and the program generated roughly $5.3 billion in 2024, about half of the country's export earnings, according to a report out of the Wall Street Journal. So Cuba's still under blockade. They're going under blackouts. We've weaponized the dollar against them, sanctioned them up one side, down the other. There's literal U.S. guns sitting there saying, come do something with Cuba. We shoot you in the face, bro. We've tracked now as part of this naval blockade, we've tracked ships allegedly trying to do some business with Cuba halfway around the world to the Indian Ocean and raided those ships, if you could remember that. So just waiting for full-on invasion of Cuba here now, as they keep saying Cuba's next. Maybe on day 132 of the Iran war, Cuba may be breathing a little bit easier here now, but we see multiple operations going on simultaneously. So we may invade Cuba at any time here now, as they are we're already in a war with them. Economic sanctions using the dollar as the world reserve currency is an act of war. So essentially, we're already at war with Cuba, just not actively shooting at them. That's next. Syrian authorities dismantle ISIS cell behind Damascus bombing. We reported on that when old Macron and the president of Syria there, al-Shara, had a meeting. There was a terrorist attack. Syrian authorities have reportedly dismantled the cell responsible for the July 7th bombings, following a series of coordinated raids across Damascus and its surrounding countryside that led to approximately 30 arrests. The arsenal of freedom is built from the ground up by shifting to long-term framework agreements, starting with Pact 3 in January and continuing with RTX in February. We've empowered over 360 companies to pour $68 billion of their own money into new American factories. That's the Department of War. And they posted this: we do love the wartime economy here in America. Build fast, build lethal. And of course, signed by the war criminal there, Secretary of War What do you do with a drunken Hegseth? Where are we at here now? Do we have any memes of the day? Yeah. Let's get a meme of the day out of the Department of War. They were really pumped up yesterday. Laser wars and bragging about, of course, the directed energy weapons program out of the Department of War. And then today, of course, again, to reiterate, Pentagon taps Lockheed Martin and Enlight for new effort to rapidly field high energy laser weapons. And here's the meme of the day. It was on the thumbnail for today's show. And there's some kind of significance in always blacking out the eyes. I didn't have time or I forgot, but every time I see these images, there's some kind of esoteric occult meaning behind this. But they do this to all the soldiers in their memes out of the Department of War. Hold the line. Why do they always put that? They black out their face. They redact their eyes, right? There's something going on with it. I think it's part of the, I'm going to have to look into that further, but I do believe it's part of the brainwashing mind control program of the military. Don't quote me on that. I'm going to look it up more, but it is disturbing. They keep putting that blinder over the eyes of these soldiers in the memes the Department of War is putting out. You see right here. Continuing. Over 40 million people, dirty Muslim terrorists, right? According to the Pentagon, over 40 million people took part in funeral ceremonies for Iran's martyred leader Khomeini. U.S. officials were shocked by the massive turnout. We're shocked, too, that you guys lied to us, said everybody hates them, and all we got to do is arm up civilian protesters after we've collapsed their economy through weaponization of the dollar, that it was going to be an easy job. Don't you worry. Iran hates their tyrannical, despotic supreme leader, Khomeini, and it's going to be 2-3 days that people just overthrow these asshole terrorists. 40 million people went to pay their last respects. Between 40 to 43 million mourners took part in the week-long funeral. Those numbers from Press TV, obviously they're suspect, but it was very high. The numbers were very high. The crowd's undeniable. Multiple sources. So, yeah, I don't know about the whole 40 million. Press TV says 40 to 43 million mourners. I don't know. Maybe it was that many. I know it's a lot of pissed off Muslims. You better believe that. All waving these red flags of vengeance right here. So, yeah. Turns out old despot Khomeini was widely respected and loved there. Here's a funny one. Iranians burn Trump Lego model. So I have a feeling after this weekend, they're going to crank out a bunch more Lego videos. We'll follow it and try to bring you the best ones here now, as it certainly feels like there's going to be massive escalation of U.S. bombing on Iran if it's not happening already right now, which I do believe it's ongoing here. Iran warns Aardvark land will face retaliation for attacks on Iranian infrastructure. Mohammed Zoghader, head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, has issued a stark warning that Iran will retaliate against Aardvark land for any future strikes on its national infrastructure. In a formal statement broadcast by IRIB earlier today, he underscored that the country would not remain passive in the face of ongoing military escalation. As we have already announced, any attack on infrastructure will be retaliated against, and the criminal Zionist regime responsible for these atrocities will not be safe from the response of our fighters, he said. The warning follows a week of intense U.S. attacks and accusations from Iran that the United States and Aardvark land are deliberately targeting civilian and economic facilities, including critical rail and bridge links, to undermine the stability of the Islamic Republic. Yeah, targeting civilian infrastructure is straight up a war crime. Yeah, we don't care. We simply don't care here in America. It's kind of our thing to commit war crimes. And it's definitely Aardvark land's thing to commit war crimes. The declaration arrives as regional mediators led by Qatar attempt to salvage a fragile diplomatic framework and de-escalate the conflict. That's simply not happening. Simply not going to happen here now. The Financial Times reports this is extremely concerning because we're putting U.S. military boots on the ground there in Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah. Extremely concerning here now. Financial Times cites sources saying that a U.S. military team will arrive in Beirut to help implement the agreement between Lebanon and Aardvark land, which includes the disarmament of Hezbollah. So imagine that. We're going to have U.S. troops on the ground in Lebanon fighting the freaking Iranian proxy militia group Hezbollah on behalf of our greatest ally who hangs us out to dry anytime they want. They're on their own psychopathic agenda, but somehow, some way we're tied to the hip with these assholes. So isn't that wonderful? It's all quite horrific, actually. Let's see here. Yeah, here's the report out of the Financial Times. Beyond a paywall, I'll post the full report. U.S. sends team to Beirut to shore up Aardvark land Hezbollah ceasefire. Sure. Quite horrific news there. Lebanese army set to deploy in South pilot zones following U.S. brokered agreement. The Lebanese armed forces are expected to assume control of initial so-called, quote, pilot zones in southern Lebanon within the coming days, marking a long-awaited shift in the area currently occupied by Aardvark land forces. According to the Aardvark Post, this transition serves as the primary test for a trilateral framework agreement signed last month in Washington, which aims to reduce frontier tensions and establish a roadmap for a gradual withdrawal of Aardvark land troops. It's going to be a friggin' disaster here now. And then, of course, as soon as our troops show up there, hell, Aardvarks will fire on them. Hezbollah fires on them, or hell, Lebanon fires on them. And then we're in a full-on war in friggin' Lebanon against Hezbollah. It's all so tragic. Aardvark land energy minister threatens to strike anywhere in Lebanon should Hezbollah launch retaliatory attacks. They're like, lay down and die. We'll bomb you, genocide you, ethnic cleanse you. If you shoot back and you even throw a freaking rock, we're going to go ahead and blow up your entire country, right? Then they say they're going to knock down a few like three weeks ago, something like this, all the big genocidal assholes said that for every drone attack by Hezbollah, they're going to go ahead and knock down 10 buildings. It looks like they're staying true to their word as the demolition campaign continues there in southern Lebanon. Aardvark land drone strikes being reported, and it's just ongoing. We have more images here. Occupation forces burn residential homes there in southern Lebanon. All war crimes, crimes against humanity. More images from southern Lebanon there. Hadi Hanoit, reporter there on the ground in Lebanon, says today, Aardvark land war on South Lebanon update. Aardvark land killer drones have carried out 5 attacks since this morning, including at least two civilian cars in the area, and that are not even included in their proclaimed yellow zone. So they whacked these civilian vehicles. There you can see ongoing demolition campaigns, burning, literal scorched earth policy, burning the Lebanese out off of their land and out of their homes. Aardvark land has now killed 4,321 Lebanese since March 2nd. The death toll continues to rise as Aardvark land remains occupying southern Lebanon with the approval of U.S.-backed Lebanese leadership, despite a ceasefire being declared, which has now returned the situation to the pre-war predicament where Hezbollah stops firing. Aardvark land continues to bomb southern Lebanon on a daily basis. 12,207 Lebanese civilians have been injured since March 2nd as well. And now U.S. troops are on the ground there in Lebanon. What a freaking disaster. And you're like, but they're still whacking the Palestinians, right? Sure they are, every day. The genocide continues. The Aardvark land military claims to have killed a Hamas commander it alleged took part in the Alaska flood operation on October 7, 2023. It identified the man known as Yaha Sahid Mohammed Hamdan, head of the Qassam Brigade's elite forces unit that took part in the operation on the Aardvark land settlement Karim Rahim. That kick was the excuse. Of course, they stood down, used fake videos, did the Hannibal doctrine and the whole routine. But yeah, so they whacked that guy allegedly. The Palestinian Red Crescent reports that 6 Palestinians were injured during an attack by Aardvark land settlers earlier this morning. Yatta area, located south of Hebron in the occupied West Bank. Multiple civilians have been injured in the vicinity of Musab bin Omar Mosque in central Gaza Strip following indiscriminate gunfire from military vehicles and machinery. Aardvark land forces are currently blocking rescue teams from reaching the remaining wounded. Emergency medical crews have managed to recover one individual who has been transported to the hospital there at the refugee camp. So they're bombing people in tents ongoing here now. And systemically targeting the public health infrastructure. If it's not, it's pretty damn near will destroyed in the Gaza Strip, and that same program in Lebanon. Aardvarkland Finance Minister Smotrich says Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, privately told him, "I will not let 2 million Nazis live next to your children along the border fence," referring to Gaza, referring to the besieged population of Gaza, half of them children. In remarks reported by Aardvarkland National News, Smotrich said the conversation took place on January 30th, 2025, when Witkoff met him alongside then Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer in Jerusalem a day after the envoy toured Gaza's Nazarene Nazarim corridor, and viewed footage of October 7th attacks. Probably fake AI videos for all we know here now, which Smotrich said left him visibly shaken. Did they show him the was it 40 babies with their heads cut off? All fake propaganda BS? I wouldn't doubt it. There is only one thing that hurts the enemy: land, Smotrich added. Oh, not whacking them all, killing entire Palestinian bloodlines. That doesn't hurt them. It's stealing their land. Whacking them hurts them as well. Well, it's all part of the same program here now, isn't it? It certainly is. To maintain workers where injured, 2 maintenance workers, getting tired here after 2 hours, 15 minutes, plus 2 maintenance workers were injured after an Aardvarkland quadricopter attacked Camille Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza this afternoon. So again, systemically targeting doctors, nurses, paramedics, ambulance drivers, anybody with a Band-Aid at this point. Aardvarkland forces shoot 7 in Gaza, including 3 children in the last 24 hours. An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and the aid worker who organized World Cup screenings were 3 Palestinians killed on Tuesday. Aardvarkland attacks since the ceasefire was announced on October 11th have killed 1,092 Palestinians, civilians, wounded 3,507, with 799 bodies recovered from the rubble. The war's cumulative total since October 7th, 2023 has risen to 73,118 dead civilian Palestinians and 173,615 wounded. Let's watch this short report from yesterday out of BBC.
Let's show you some really incredible pictures from Gaza. These are people who have gathered to watch the match between Egypt and Argentina that happened on Tuesday. And as you can see from these pictures, large crowds have gathered at this very improvised location in the rubble of buildings to watch the game. But just hours earlier, before the game started, the man who organised this World Cup screenings, he helped find these massive screens so that people could watch the football action. He was killed in an Israeli strike. The Israeli military confirmed the strike, saying Mohammed al-Wahidi was not the intended target and that the missile had been aimed at a terrorist in Hamas's military wing. Let's speak to our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie Abalouf, who joins us now.
See, he wasn't a target. It was an honest mistake. No good deed goes unpunished by aardvarks, you see. Local solidarity activists report that for the 4th time this week, Aardvarkland settlers have driven a flock of sheep into fenced olive groves on private Palestinian land in Huwara in the occupied West Bank. According to these reports, the Aardvarkland army subsequently arrested the local Palestinian residents who were protesting the incursion. So these ultra-Zionist settler maniacs are continuing to ethnically cleanse the occupied West Bank there one way or another. That's not the Gaza Strip. That's not Lebanon. That's the occupied West Bank. They don't even claim there are any terrorists there. They just claim that 3,000 years ago, their evil God gifted them this land and they're there to take it back, essentially, is the claim of these ultra-Zionist psychopaths. Day after day, Aardvarkland settlers would come to our houses, stealing, destroying, and burning. That's we'll play this clip. In response to escalating violence from Aardvarkland settlers, residents. Let's watch this short clip here now about the terrorism being committed by the ultra-Zionist settlers against the Palestinians in the occupied West Bank.
Palestinian volunteers scan the hills around Sinjar for Israeli settlers on the attack. They are part of a grassroots volunteer group that has stepped in to defend their town, like others in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. No one else will, they say, neither the Israeli military nor their own government. Settler violence against Palestinians has soared since the Gaza war started.
قتلوا 3 أشخاص وصاروا يوم ينزلوا على الدور يسرقوا يخربوا يحرقوا.
Fadi Alwan is part of the lookout. There are also patrols and a community WhatsApp group where Sinjar residents raise the alarm.
إذا قربوا على الدور بننزلهم بنودع على مجموعات أهل البلد يعني مش إحنا اللي بنوقف وجوههم أهل البلد كل أهل البلد بتيجي وبتتصدى للهجوم يعني إحنا اللهم بس بنعطي إعاز للناس إن في هجوم للمستوطنين كل البلد بتيجي.
Palestinians say the Israeli police or the military are either late to respond or come to the aid of the settlers perpetrating the violence. The military denies this. But a UN inquiry last month found that Israeli forces do shield settler attacks.
لما صرنا نقعد هون خفت الهجمات تقريبا 90% لأن صرنا نشوفهم.
A few days ago, as he tried to harvest wheat, Alwan says he was attacked by a settler wielding a spiked club. He said last year settlers shot live bullets at a tent erected by the volunteers. By luck, they missed the young men inside. The next day, troops came and dismantled the tent, he said. Israel's military didn't immediately comment. Abed Fuqaha credits community protection for his family's survival. About 2 years ago, settlers threw a Molotov cocktail through his window, setting the house on fire while he and his family were inside. He called for help on WhatsApp, and young men, at first stopped by the Israeli military, arrived and helped carry out his wheelchair-using father.
وضع يعني كثير صار يعني كثير بخوف يعني إحنا بطلنا يعني مش عايشين يعني بصراحة مرتاحين يعني أنت بتكون بالنهار يعني قاعد تكون خايف.
Fuqaha has installed metal bars over the window and built a tall metal fence around his garden.
طب تسمع في مستوطنين في المنطقة الفلانية بتصير تحكي لهم إن هم مستوطنين في محل تاني بتكون لا سمح الله هيك بيخلصوا المنطقة الثانية بيجي لعندك. هذا ابني يعني بيطلع على المدرسة عليه صار فيه خوف ولما يروح بيصير فيه خوف وبنتي هيك نفس الشيء بيطلع على المدرسة برضه ولما بدي يروح نفس.
Feet from his fence lies another fence. This one installed by Israel's military to encircle the town. Israel's far-right government has approved hundreds of new settlements. Most of the world considers all of Israel's settlement activity in the West Bank illegal under international law. Israel disputes this. Residents say Sinjar has become a prison.
كنا احنا قبل ما نحطوا هذا الشيء والجدار كنا يعني بحريه، سواء احنا او المزارعين، توصل لارضك تنتقل من منطقه من هنا. يعني تخيل هذه طرمس عيا بلده قريبه عنا، كنا احنا بالنسبه لنا يعني احنا محل ما احنا ساكنين كانوا يحسبونا على منطقه طرمس عيا، احنا عايشين من طرمس عيا. يعني احنا كنا امرار بدل ما نروح على سنجل نشتري اي.
I don't know why they call it a prison. They just built a giant prison fence around it. And then finally here, Aardvark Land confirmed a viral photo of a blindfolded, nearly naked Palestinian detained, bound to a cot is authentic and is investigating the incident. I'm sure that the IDF will go ahead and bring swift justice to those that did this torture. That was from the failing New York Times. All right, that's all the reporting we got for today. Let's take a look at Iran international headlines. Have we bombed the hell out of Iran since we've been on the air? Let's see. U.S. presses Iran for public statement that Strait of Hormuz is open. So dumb, right? It's not open, bro. But it's for the markets, you see. Iran's foreign minister says the U.S. violated MOU after new sanctions. U.S. sees Iran nuclear deal as increasingly unlikely. The Wall Street Journal, you think? Trump pushed people back to 1979 revolutionary spirit, IRGC says. So all of this has spectacularly backfired here now on America, as our own intelligence warned before any of this even happened. Conservative coalition urges Congress to support Iran internet freedom bills. Iran's identity is and will be resistant to the United States. Khomeini's grandson says. So I would expect bombing to be kicked off at any time here. I'd be highly surprised if there's not heavy bombing going on over this weekend. U.S. Now headlines from Al Jazeera. And we'll wrap up this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Again, thank you everybody for sticking with me here. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. We covered a whole heck of a lot of news on this Friday edition. Al Jazeera headlines: U.S. open to talks but demands Iran state that Strait of Hormuz open. Now we got to play the blame game. Well, it's your fault, Iran. It's your fault, America. Why is there no Strait of Hormuz open? Aardvark Land forces kill Hezbollah fighter and suspect in South Lebanon. Iran's chief negotiator says country ready for full-scale defense or full-scale war. What's been happening in the occupied West Bank? We give you a little bit of a report on what is happening there in the occupied West Bank. Straight up ultra-Zionist terrorism against civilians there. And that's all the reporting we have on this Friday. Let's pray for peace. It's not looking good. The prospects of peace are not looking good. That's for sure here now as we go into this weekend. Let's see. Heading over to Odysee now. Let's take a look at Odysee. Shout out to the Odysee chat. Thank you guys for tuning in there. Shout out to Pink Gur Deep. Let's see here. Greetings, Highland. Shout out to Highland. Highland said, who murders a 78-year-old? America. Oh, man. So the commies are fighting a war crime war on 8 to 15 fronts, and nobody can beat the F out of them. Hard to believe unless Iran has been captured by Zog long ago. Greater Commieville Project liberating, takeover, displacing. Krima says that, destroying, and the sheep will still follow bloodlust vampires. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good breakdown there, I would have to say. What does Gur say? Yep, white toxic masculinity. An American woman was murdered in Killarney early in the week. The Garrardi police, who were looking for the suspect, could not release his name, age, ethnicity for legal reasons. He's believed to have fled to Turkey. Loads of video showing him. I don't get what's here in America. We say F you Muslims, die Muslims. You know what I mean? Ever since 9/11. I don't know. I guess that's politically incorrect now to say. I don't know what Europe's deal is, but America has no problem openly hating Muslims. Maybe not now. Maybe I'm out of the political correct loop. But as far as I could see, you could say F you Muslims all day, and the majority don't have a problem with it. I guess the fake politicians do. But the funny thing, and I'll never forget, here in America, after 9/11, they went and beat up a bunch of dudes wearing turbans thinking they're Muslims, right? Because every dude wearing a turban's a Muslim terrorist. Turns out they're not even Muslims, they're Indian Sikhs, right? That happened where I'm at here in Central Valley. I remember a few cases where that happened. And it's like, we got those dirty terrorist Muslims. It's like, bro, they're definitely not terrorists as you perceive. And they're not even Muslims. And they're freaking Indians, but they wear the turban. It's just ridiculous. But that's America for you. Get those dirty terrorists, I tell you. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee. Thank you for tuning in on X, Kick, Bitchute, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube, and Substack as well, if anybody's tuning in live there. Let me go over to the chat here. Looks like we had quite a good audience on the YouTube today, so shout out to everybody new that's come on to the show. I'm just going to scroll about halfway up, guys. There's a lot of comments to go through here. I'll just start, and shout out to everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in and commenting. I hope it was cordial and informative, as it usually is on Weaponized News, obviously. Let's see. We gradually on the YouTube says Lebanon banned Hezbollah a couple of months ago. You're missing it. You're missing the game here. Gradual. Josh says, good. We should be there to wipe out all Hamas and Hezbollah soldiers until none are left. Wow, Josh. Bart says there are ancient tunnels under all of that area, large ancient tunnels. They keep saying they're blowing up their tunnels, yeah. If Iran wants a large bottle rocket, they have the money. What's under Area 51, Austin says. What is under? Don't forget Elon Musk's boring company, right? He has these tunnel digging machines. So they're building giant underground tunnel systems for these deep underground military bases. You better believe it. North Korea has at least 100 ICBMs. Bart on the YouTube says. Not really worried. I'm telling you, I'm pretty convinced here now that this whole thermonuclear Holocaust scenario they've been selling us since World War II. I think it's a psyop and bullshit. Can they blow up stuff big time? Yes. The excuse for the whole Cold War with Russia, right? I just simply don't believe it, because I believe if they had this capability, they would have used it already. And there's many other factors to say that that the alleged atomic bombing of Japan in World War II was not the story as we've been told. Let's see here. Scrolling through there, shout out to Denver on the Rumble. Clifton says, that's what they do, jealous of everything. Bart, he's blackmailed. Let's see here. He's making billions off crypto. I don't know if he made billions. He did make millions off just the fees alone. So if Trump had showed his taxes in 2015, this conversation would not be happening. They've turned the dial on corruption in Trump's second term to 11. Denial is the first symptom of TDS. These got to be bots. Because it's the same comment. Trump would love to shred our Constitution. He's pretty much shredding it. The federal government's shredding our Constitution. Are you kidding me? From Congress to the executive to the judicial, they've all shredded our Constitution. The Constitution is everything, Bart says on the YouTube. I'd say our natural rights are actually everything, and the Constitution is just a piece of paper that nobody alive today was party to. Bullish on AI and data centers. Fat Ball says, indeed. The only thing that our economy can do here is build out technocracy. By commies, he means aardvarks. Good one, Denver. Ronald Reagan started it back in the 80s. They had it up and running in the late 90s. Our military has things that they don't tell the public. Cola on the YouTube says the West are bona fide terrorists. They split human blood in millions every 5 years. They are violent and aggressive to get what they want. Yeah. We have very special satellites up there that will cut the ICBM in half as soon as it leaves their silo. Well, why are we building, if we have all this high technology, Star Wars and all this, why are we going to pour all this money into the Golden Dome? More money laundering? Who are we weaponizing? Otto says. Japanese people still suffer the effects of radiation poisoning from World War II. Really? Those areas are highly populated right now. $2 billion in crypto, Clifton says. Maybe. I know they made hundreds of millions off the fees alone from Trump and Melania coins. We reported on it. And yeah, they profiteered as well off of the actual trading before they rugged it all and left retail investors holding the bag. All right, friends. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this Friday. edition of Weaponized News. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Friday evening, a great weekend, and let's pray for peace and hope things don't get too crazy here now over the weekend with bombing campaigns against Iran. And with that, we'll see you back here on Monday.